Welcome to another episode of the Wandering Watercolor. Let's paint. Okay, so this is the 8th page of the forest scenery watercolor coloring book that I make. And as always, you want some place to mix your colors. This is just a soap dish. You can get them anywhere. They're absurdly cheap. A brush, any brush works. Paint palette. The one that I'm using here is the Prang 15 mini watercolors. It's a decent palette. I actually really like it for the price. It's very affordable. 2 jars of water on the side, a paper towel. And that's pretty much it. Now with this one, as you can tell, there's a lot of information here. And this page probably took me the longest out of all the pages in this book. That one and the one with the raccoon, which we haven't painted yet. And part of the reason is I wanted the line work to do most, if not all, of the heavy lifting for the image. And because there's so much going on here. And I also know that a lot of people kept requesting for me to put a wolf in this book. So the way that I'm going to break this down really as I'm painting it is where the trees are, where the wolf is, and all of this. This is basically the foreground, and everything else is the background. So it should be pretty straightforward. But the way we'll start painting it is first I'm going to block off the background. I'm imagining that this wolf is deep in the forest, so there's not a lot of light, but the spot that he's in has some light that we can utilize. So I'm grabbing a little bit of teal, a little bit of green or dark green, and I'm going to add a little bit of blue or dark blue. And I want to push it more towards the green more than anything. And I'm going to mix it in with a lot of water because I want it to be more transparent. And so basically, I'm going to start by... I know there's a lot of detail back here, but we're going to come back to it. So I'm painting over a lot of the detail, and I'm blocking in where the foreground is. This is the entire purpose of what I'm doing right now. That's not to say that we won't add more detail and shading and all of that into the background, but we want to establish that clear differentiation. Like that. Like that. And then as we go further up in the background, I'm just gonna rinse my brush and then just kind of pull up the colors like that. There we go. Basically fading them out upwards. Like that. Gonna rinse my brush and dry it off on my piece of paper towel here. And basically for the time being, I'm just gonna leave the background as it is. I'm not gonna worry about it too much for a while. We are going to add some more details later on, but now we can shift our focus entirely to the foreground. And I'm gonna grab some yellow green. And if you don't have this particular shade, just play around mixing yellow and green. It's pretty straightforward. And what I'll do here is, you can tell I'm laying it in pretty heavily for 2 reasons. One, I want it to be more vibrant in the foreground because it'll separate it from the background. And 2, I'm going to use the mixture that I'm laying down right now to pull out of and mix into with other colors for highlights. And I'll show you what I mean here in just a moment. Just kind of adding it in all around. You can tell I'm leaving white spots on purpose. Like right here, for example, like that. A little bit back here. And these leaves right here, like that. Okay, so I'm gonna rinse my brush. And I'm gonna grab some yellow and then just basically, too much yellow. I'm just gonna mix in the yellow with the edge of the other places where I just put the green. Like that. And that gives it a little bit of a highlight, kind of like, you know, as if we have some sun that's hitting the area. And maybe pick up a little bit of it if I want to create a little more of a highlight, like that. There we go. Rinse my brush. Next, I'm going to grab the brown, and I'm using just straight brown. A little bit of water, so I have mixture to work with, and going in on the bottom here. And so this log that's across here, I'm focusing more on the bottom. And then as it moves up, I'm actually going to grab a little bit of orange to kind of blend in upwards. And then rinse my brush and then just use a wet brush to kind of pull that up like that. It's okay if it bleeds in. Actually makes it look more interesting in my opinion if the colors bleed in a bit. I'm going to go back to the brown and then block in this stick that's over here, or branch I should say. Same with this one. And then the one that's up here. Rinse my brush. And grab more of the brown, add water, mix it up, more brown. Because I do want more of this mixture to go around for the trees in that are behind the wolf but are in the foreground. These ones that are kind of helping us block in the scene. And I'm gonna kind of start on the back here, and where I put in some textures for moss growing on the tree, I'm going to kind of avoid those little textures, those little lumps, since I do want to put green on them, but it'll be a different shade of green than what we have in the foreground. And I'm kind of just focusing more on the edge like that, and maybe a little bit this branch like that, and then this edge, trying to avoid some of that moss. And rinse my brush. Same thing, grab some yellow, add some water, and then just kind of let it run in, intentionally bleeding into the brown that we just put in. Not everywhere, like down here for the moss, I'm just going to leave that as is. And I'm also going to grab a little bit of the orange because I still want some of those traces of orange in there. Not too much, I just want it to be enough to kind of give some variation. Like that. Grab a little more of the brown, a little bit here, a little bit there. I just want a stronger contrast towards the edge because it helps kind of bring things in. There we go. A little bit here. And that looks good so far. We will end up layering in more. Just for now, I'm just kind of gonna blend it in. Like that. Okay, now rinse my brush. And now for the moss, I'm actually going to grab some of the green, but mix it in with some of the blue-green or teal that we had in the background. So it's somewhere in between is what I'm looking for, that's pretty much it, yeah. And I'm just going to block that in, and it's okay if it bleeds into the other colors. It just makes it more interesting to look at. There we go. Okay, rinse my brush. And basically do the same thing for the other tree, the one on the left side. We're just gonna move in like that, and then carefully skip where the little mossy patches are. I'm gonna grab the yellow, go on the side here, like that. Oh, see, I went over the mossy patch. I was not paying attention. I'm gonna lift up some of that, dry off my brush, and then lift up some of that excess right there. Grab some more of that yellow, mix it in with the green here. Let it kind of bleed in intentionally, like that. There we go. I rinse my brush. And I'm gonna grab some more of this brown just to kind of get this log in the background here. And rinse my brush. And grab some of the darker green just so I can fill in this back here. And then using the darker green, I can, I'm actually gonna put a little bit over here for this fern. It's kind of coming up, and over here and over here. And you can tell I'm not fully blocking in the color. I'm just kind of creating like a little base of color that I'm gonna draw out of. I'm gonna rinse my brush and then pull out some of that, the rest of it. So it's kind of creating like a faded effect. There we go. Rinse my brush. And I'm actually going to use that same exact green for the pine needles up here. And you can tell, like, same thing, I'm just using a little spot of color. Maybe a little more down here, just so it's not so faint. A little more here, a little more over here. And then same color for the leaf that's up here in front. There we go. You never want to concentrate a color in just one spot. You do want to have it in different spots just to make it more interesting. And with a wet brush, I'm just going to fade out some of the color up here into the rest of the pine needles. Like that. Here's my brush. And now, so a lot of this is wet, so I'm just going to let it dry off. While it's drying, I can actually go back into the background, grab a little more of that green teal color, and block in some more of the shrubs. Like, for example, back here, just leave a little bit of texture. The color that I'm using is very close to it. It's just darker, and I'm just using it to establish texture, to establish a little more differentiation, but it's similar enough to the rest of what's going on so that it doesn't distract. It just gives you the idea that there's more stuff back there. And I'm gonna use the same for some of the leaves in the background, like that. There we go. I rinse my brush. I'm actually going to grab a little bit of the brown because of the spot that's back here. There we go. Okay. Now for the wolf, we want the wolf to be more of a gray brown. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some brown and a little bit of the dark blue, mix it in. I'm going to mix in a good amount. brown, and dark blue, and mixing it all in. Brown, dark blue, and a little more brown. And this is pretty much exactly the color that I want. Yeah, that's like a gray brown. I'm gonna add a little bit of water. But before I start making marks, I'm actually going to add some yellow. And so the yellow that I'm going to place here is going to be a little bit here. See, that's too strong, but that's okay. I'm gonna dilute it with water. Okay, so I'm gonna put it here, and it will dry off lighter. Remember that. So here, a little bit here on the thigh, like that. A little bit here on top of the paws. A little bit here, a little bit here on the spine, like that. A little bit on the ears, and then I'm gonna rinse my brush off. Maybe pick up some, blend it in. I don't want it to be too strong, but now when I go in to make the marks with the dark brown gray mixture, I can go in and let the edge of those marks that I just made kind of blend in. I don't want it to be too strong. Like over here, I want them to blend in. Up here, I want them to blend in. Now, I'm gonna leave more of a lighter spot that's in, like, kind of on the chest and the muzzle. But you can tell I'm kind of filling it in pretty quickly, just so that the edges can blend in nicely. Like over here, I'm gonna blend that in. I wet my brush to help that out a little bit and blend it in a little better. Over here, like that. Okay. I'm gonna rinse my brush completely, dry it off, and then pick up some of that excess in the front, and then a little bit in the mouth. So I want this kind of like a lighter muzzle and chest on the wolf. There we go. And for the ears, if I get a little bit of red and mix it up with water, it'll give me kind of like a nice pink. That's a little strong, but I'm gonna lift it up with a damp brush to lighten it up a little bit. Even though it will dry lighter, I don't want it to be that strong. And for the eyes, I do want a very strong yellow mixture. So it's a lot of yellow and just a little bit of water, just so that it can move around easily. So I'm just gonna go ahead and lay that in like that. There we go. Now the rest of it is not too complicated. I mean, we're about 75% there, but the rest of it is, we do want to add a little bit of, for the little pads for the paws. I'm gonna mix some more of that dark brown, just a little bit for the right there, and then maybe some kind of like short brush strokes just to emphasize the fur and the shading on the fur. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just want to really convey that texture. A little bit down here, definitely down here where it will be darker because of the shading of how the wolf is laying, and a little bit of just kind of some following the marks that are already on the paper, just some. There we go. go. Just kind of slowly, a little bit down here. Maybe a little bit over here. A little bit for the eyebrows. There we go. Make it look more interesting. Like that. And also down here for the front leg. That's, you know, some of the shadow. Let me rinse my brush. Next, I do want to add more to the trees. So I'm using some of the mixture that I already have here that I used for the wolf, but I'm adding more brown. That way it's closer to what the trees are. And then I'm just gonna block it in more. And then maybe outline some of those, the texture, some of the cracks in the bark, like that. To help block things in a little better. Like that. And then definitely doing the same up here for the tree that's in the front. Okay, I'm rinsing my brush. And dry off my brush. I actually like how this looks right now. I'm going to step back for a moment just to take a look at it. Okay, yeah, I actually really like how that looks. I think that looks pretty finished. I'm worried that if I add too much other things on it, it'll take away from it. But for roughly 25 minutes, I think this looks pretty good. You can always add more contrast if you want to, but when I get to this point, I'm worried about making it too much. I like the level of detail, contrast, and color that's in this image. So if you have any questions, just leave me a message, leave a comment. I usually respond pretty quickly. And with that, I will see you on the next one.